Hi, everyone. Welcome. My name is Eileen Hooster, and I'm part of BeMove Media and the marketing team for the Zappi Group of companies. I'd like to welcome you to this session. Please remember that this session is being recorded and will be available to watch on demand afterwards. If you have any questions during this session, please add them to the Q&A. You can find that tab to the right of your screen on the top right. Note that your questions will be sent privately. With that, I would like to introduce our speaker. I'd like to welcome Ethan Sokolas, Product Manager for Electrification for Briggs & Stratton Vanguard, who will be speaking today about the strategic lifecycle, building scalable and sustainable power ecosystems. Welcome, Ethan. Please go ahead.
Thank you so much, and thank you to the Zappi Group for inviting us to speak here. It's really an honor, so we appreciate it here at Briggs & Stratton. So today I'm going to be talking to you about the strategic life cycle, and this is really going to be about building scalable and sustainable power ecosystems. I think for starters, who we are at Briggs & Stratton and Vanguard, just to level set, here at Briggs & Stratton, we really see ourselves as a power provider in the Vanguard space, and Vanguard's our commercial brand. So historically, we've served markets in industrial construction, agriculture, lawn and garden with engines. And about 6 years ago, we started our mass manufacturing of our lithium ion batteries. And since then, we've evolved our portfolio every single year. And what we've really done is taken a lot of the learnings from the engine side of the business and tried to help the customers in those markets move to become electrified. And we are trying to become the power provider where you can come to Vanguard or Briggs & Stratton and you can buy engines and you can buy batteries. And what this presentation is really going to be about is what we've seen in the marketplace when it comes to electrification, what we see as best practices, and then things to look for as you go across your electrification journey. And so, with that said, what we've seen when you move from engines to an electrified piece of equipment is it's really not just a hardware swap. You have to think about the whole product and how it's going to work together. And really, a way of talking about it is you can't just take an engine off and put a battery on. You have to think of your other components that you're going to need on your product. And you're going to be talking about bolts, or you're going to be talking about drivetrains becoming motors and controllers and wire harnessing systems. You're going to have to think about what your charging solution is going to be. And you're going to have to think about how you set up your piece of equipment possibly to work with connected devices so you can push updates and things like that. And so we've just seen a lot of customers have to kind of get their minds wrapped around the fact of it's not just an engine swap and it's not just putting a battery on. You have to think about the whole ecosystem of product that's going to go on your equipment, how it's going to interface with each other, how it's going to work with each other, and how it's going to create a better user experience. And that's really important, as you'll see in the coming slides. And so what we've seen in the marketplace to date, we've been serving the market for 6 years now, mass manufacturing batteries. I would say in our experience, certain markets are ahead of others in terms of what we've been able to do from a scale standpoint. I would say overall, when we look at the total marketplace, what we have proven is we've proven that this is feasible. We can electrify machines and we can make high quality products. And we've had some really good success stories with certain products, and we've had other products where they've struggled a bit in the marketplace by just not meeting the requirements of the customer, or perhaps coming at too much of a cost disadvantage to the customer, making it non-economical. But what we have proven is for a large majority of the applications that we're looking at powering, we can do feasible prototypes. We can power a machine with batteries and get really good performance out of it. What we've not proven for the majority of applications, we do have certain markets where this has been proven out, is scalability. And that's really, really important because in order to make a product economic, you need to make it scalable. You need to make something where you can have economies of scale on your cost base. And so this can be things from your manufacturing side, making sure that you can have good, consistent throughput and quality on your product when it's electrified. And then it's on your component side of making sure you can purchase in volume so that way you can buy at lower cost. And so, really, what we've seen again is a lot of products are feasibly able to be electrified, but not all of them are scaled yet. And in our history, just the volumes of scale that you're able to get, specifically in the battery space, is you get almost an exponential curve on what your economic scenario is going to be. And we've seen it year over year as we've grown our volume, as we continue to take our costs out and we actually continue to pass price down to the customers because we know that we have to continue to drive lower dollar per kilowatt hours to continue to serve our customers and help scale electrified systems in the market. And so this leads us to one of the common things that we see. And we'll talk to customers frequently and we'll talk about different solutions. And one of the items that keeps coming up is off the shelf versus customized solutions. And really, the way we've seen the marketplace evolving is one size doesn't fit everybody. I think, when you're looking at a piece of equipment that you want to electrify, it's very normal to say, these are my space requirements. And I would like a custom tailored solution that can fit within the given space constraints that I have and perform to what I need it to do. And that's a very normal feeling to have. But unfortunately, when you get into customized type solutions, you run into a lot of headwinds in that type of environment. And so you run into a situation where your suppliers are going to have to spin up engineering time in order to design and validate that custom solution. You're going to have to purchase material that's very custom and tailored to what you need. You might have to spend capital tooling very specific solutions, and it just ends up adding cost layers on top of cost layers, which is really a headwind when we talk about the transition to electrified equipment. And so we've seen a lot of this become a bit of a trap of having a custom battery solution for every piece of equipment. Now, there are certain applications where you need a custom battery. You will have situations where you need a specific performance requirement, or you'll have situations where you require a specific amount of space that your battery must be contained to in order to fit the application that you're going to power. But the overwhelming majority of the time, what we believe is you want to look for standardized solutions. And why do you want to look for standardized solutions is, when you're looking at a supplier, as you know, anything that you can buy off the shelf is typically less expensive than something that you're going to buy that's custom. Along with that, typically, if you're going to buy something off the shelf, it's already been validated and it's usually typically available readily, versus something that you're going to request to be customized is going to take time to engineer. It's going to take time to develop. It's going to take time to spin up the supply chain. It's going to take time to validate that and then fit it into your machine. And this has two issues with it. One benefit we've seen with customers when they go with a standardized solution is they can spin up prototypes faster. They can get product into the marketplace faster. And that speed is actually a huge benefit. And it's a huge benefit for two reasons. The first reason is we're seeing competition move very, very fast. And we talk to customers, and some customers will have a 3 to 5 year timeline. And that's understandable when you think about an R&D project and then transitioning to a product development project and then launching it. Typically that's probably about the time frame it would take. But unfortunately, what we're seeing, especially when we're talking about electrified equipment, is speed to market is becoming more and more critical. And companies are moving faster and faster to launch products to the marketplace. And we're really seeing development cycles shrink to 18 to 12 months now. And that's just the reality that we face. And so I would say at Briggs and Stratton, what we really challenge ourselves with is how do we speed up our development cycles for our products that we're launching? And then how do we help our customers speed up their development cycles? The other thing too, that you get when you launch products with standardized solutions and you launch with that speed and you get prototypes out faster is you learn. And I would say what's been a very pleasant surprise is the amount of learning that takes place after we launch a product with a customer. And we often learn things about how the applications are being used or the other problems that are being solved in the marketplace with an electrified system versus an ICE engine that we didn't even think about when we were launching it. So, for example, we launched a machine probably about a year to a year and a half ago with a customer, and it's a construction machine. And to be honest with you, the total cost of ownership, because it traditionally was hydraulic, was very beneficial. And so the end user who was buying this machine, was able to realize a benefit to their business case by using it. What we didn't expect was the safety aspect and the job efficiency aspect that came with an electrified system. Because when you remove the engine from that system, all of a sudden the employees who were working the job site were able to talk to each other, and you could hear each other on the walkie talkies. And if someone needed to move, you were able to do that. Or if you wanted to stop the pour of concrete, you were able to do that instead of slightly overpouring it. And so we saw a bunch of efficiencies come in. We saw safety improvement come in. And what we actually saw was the end user, the overwhelming majority of the time, telling their employer they wanted that electrified machine with them on the job site. And that was something we learned after we launched it. And so that helped us adjust our marketing story. It helped us adjust our go to market story. It helped us adjust the next product we developed and adding more and more features that the battery was able to provide to the end user. And so I think that really shows the benefits of launching products to the marketplace fast and then learning from the experience you get by working with your customers. I think the other thing too, when we talk about standardization, that's a big deal that this slide is trying to demonstrate is when we look at it from a battery supplier standpoint, when you standardize, you're able to get scale. And so, what you're able to do is take different customers who maybe are buying at smaller volumes, but when you pool them as a supplier, you're able to take that to your supply base and get lower costs. And so instead of doing a custom solution where every single machine that we have on the screen has a unique battery, if they all buy the same battery, they're all going to benefit in each other's shared scale and all get shared economic benefits with them by lower pricing, lower costs on their battery solution. And that's a really big deal for us as a battery supplier, is making sure that our customers are able to continue to drive more economic solutions and drive that adoption in the marketplace. And really making sure that you can have standardization is a way that the whole entire marketplace can benefit from it. The other nice thing too that you'll see is when you go to a standardized battery solution, the battery is going to evolve over the years, but it'll evolve over the years in a way that the form factor and the connection points are going to stay the same, but you're going to get better technology in there year on year. And so, what do I mean by that? I think a good example for us is our swappable battery pack. This is something that we were very excited to launch. It's had a lot of great excitement, anticipation, and success in the marketplace. And we're already developing, what we're thinking of as the next generation of that version of the product. And what's nice with something like that, and you've seen it with our fixed packs too, is you launch version one and you get it out to the marketplace and you learn from the marketplace on what the needs are. And when we overwhelmingly heard of, hey, we need more value, we need more performance for it. And so, what this has allowed us to do is in the next generation of this product, we were able to work with our suppliers and we were able to work with our engineers and we were able to develop the next version of the product that is going to be more performant. And so, we're going to have better efficiencies, we're going to have better performance, and we're going to provide more value. And so, you've seen that of the next version of the product is just going to be increasingly getting better. And then there's going to be a third version of the product that's going to, guess what, have more performance and more value to the customer. Something you may have seen in our fixed packs is what we've been able to do is actually we've taken the same form factor when we started production and it was a 4 kilowatt hour battery. And by working with the suppliers and the engineers, we were able to scale that to a 7 kilowatt hour battery right now. And so over the course of 4 years, we took something from 4 kilowatt hours to 7 kilowatt hours, all because we were able to make sure that we had a standardized footprint that we were developing to. And then we just took the technology and kept applying it to that same footprint. So our customers kept getting more performance and more value. And so that's one of the nice things about standardization is you can really make sure that you can design and engineer around it and you can iterate on it as a battery supplier. And then your customers are going to benefit every single year from the improved performance that you can get out of it. And then this brings us to the next issue that we see a lot on the marketplace, which is charging. I can't charge in remote environments. I can't charge on the job site. It's very difficult for me to charge. And this is a problem we all hear and we all understand. Electricity, running wires out to specific remote areas can be a bit of a challenge. But what we've also seen too is that this challenge has also come up in traditional ICE situations as well, where getting diesel, getting fuel out to the job site can also be a bit tricky sometimes. And so what we've really taken the approach here at Briggs& Stratton is it's not really a charging problem, it's more of a logistics problem. And so what do we mean by that? Is we really think that you need to bring the power to the machine. And so you'll see on the screen here, we have the swappable battery pack. And this is the battery pack that we launched where you can charge and discharge it, and then you can keep swapping the batteries, kind of like a power tool, and you could keep doing your job all day long. And so we've seen success in the marketplace with customers utilizing this to make sure they can run all day. And then they can perhaps charge overnight or swap out their fleet of batteries overnight and get a fresh bank of batteries in the morning. And so that's really important when you think about making sure that you have good uptime and you have enough batteries to power you going all day. The other thing we're seeing in the marketplace too is kind of these mobile charging solutions as well. You see that here with our fixed packs, where people are starting to find solutions where we can bring mobile storage to the job site and then use that to charge machines. And so, really, what's important is understanding what is the problem, defining it, and then seeing what you can do within your capabilities to help solve that problem. And so, what this also brings us to is understanding how are you going to make a battery that starts with your customer at the beginning of the life cycle, but you're also going to be there at the end of the life cycle. And frankly, this is something that we've seen fall short in the marketplace sometimes. What I'd say is, there are certain battery suppliers that do a really good job of it, but there's a lot of unknowns in the marketplace. And I think this is something when I talk to customers, they're very, very scared of, both end users and OEMs, is what happens to the battery at the end of the life. And I think that's important that you understand with your partners and your suppliers, how are they going to design for second life? How are they going to design for recycling? How are they going to be a partner with you throughout the full life cycle of your product? And so, for example, what we do is we've designed a product, and it's been in the market for 6 years, and we're starting to get, a bit more end of life batteries back to us. But when we initially designed our product, we thought about recycling and we thought about second life. And the nice thing about lithium, I think automotive is a very good example of what's currently going on, is you can reuse these batteries sometimes. So it can mean taking a commercial battery and then putting that in more of a residential type environment. Or it can mean taking a commercial battery at its end of life and putting it in an energy storage type environment. Because what we're seeing a lot with batteries that come back to us is the cells still have energy in them. The battery still might be good. It just might not have the full capacity retention that was needed for the initial idea of the machine that it was powering. And so it's important that you talk to your battery suppliers about what their second life strategy is and also their recycling strategy. One thing that we've heard a lot from dealers specifically and end users as well is what happens when I get all these batteries back? Great, I'll be able to make a battery sale today, but when that customer five years from now is ready to upgrade to the next iteration of the machine, or they're done using it and the asset has reached its end of life, what am I going to do with everything that I receive back? And it's a scary proposition because batteries have a lot of unknown to them. I think people don't know what type of handling they need to have. They don't know how to ship them. They don't know who to contact. And it's really important that your company, your partner has a good recycling strategy, a good handling strategy. So, for example, we at Briggs and Stratton, we work with the dealers. We try to make sure that they understand, here's the documentation you need to fill out, here's the people you need to contact, and then here's how we're going to take your battery and we're going to ship it back to our facilities, and we will go ahead and manage the recycling. We'll go ahead and manage the analysis on if we can use it for second life, but we will make sure that you're taken care of when the product comes to its end of life. And that's really important because you don't want to leave your customers out to dry. You want to think of the full life cycle of your product and ensure that you have answers to meet your customers wherever they are. And so that was the beginning and the end. And then you also have to think of the diagnostic piece too. So how are you going to meet them in the middle? And that's really important that you make sure you understand that for your machines. And so, really, when we look at it from Briggs and Stratton's perspective, when we look at it from a Vanguard perspective, we want to build the ecosystem together. And like I stated, it's important that we think about the full product life cycle. How are we going to support the customer up front? How are we going to make sure that we can resolve diagnostic issues in the field? And then how are we going to handle batteries at the end of their life? It's important that we have answers to all of that. And it's important that, you as an OEM are able to meet your customers there and have answers to all of it. The other piece that's important is that, we're building the ecosystem together. We're coming out with standard solutions. We're coming out with something that will work across markets. And I think at Briggs and Stratton, that's one of the unique things we have is we service multiple different marketplaces. We service agriculture, we service lawn and garden, we service industrial, we service recreation, we service construction. And so we have to design our products to be able to meet all those different markets where they are. And all of them bring unique challenges. They bring unique requirements. They bring unique compliance standards that you need to hit. But, if you do that right, if you design products to meet customers where they are, you can build standardized solutions that work across the marketplace. And then you can take all the products, you can pull them together and you can create scale advantages and you can drive adoption. Because really what it's about at the end of the day, when we get to it, is how do we drive adoption in the marketplace? How do we create more economic solutions for the customers? How do we provide improved features, improved product performance? And really, it's making sure that we can have sustainable solutions, we can have standard solutions, and then we can get product in the marketplace and we can learn from the customers and we can iterate off what they tell us and we can keep making it better. I think it's really exciting when we work with customers that battery solutions, they offer different ideas on how you can attack a product. They allow you to feature upgrade your product. They allow you to possibly add autonomous solutions. They allow you to do things that you probably couldn't do with your traditional machines, or you now have the time to go and attack. And so I think that that's really exciting. Is we're going to see this wave of product that's going to have a lot of investment in it. It's going to have a lot of innovation in it, and it's going to bring exciting solutions to a marketplace that I think is ready for it, and it's going to solve problems. And so we at Briggs & Stratton, we want to build that ecosystem together with you all. And so I wanted to wrap up by thanking you all. I want to thank the Zappy Group for inviting us to speak and giving us the opportunity to present here. Please follow us on our social media. Please scan our QR code if you want more information from us. And with that said, I'll kick it back over and see if there are any questions.
Great. Thank you, Ethan. That was great. Great presentation. My camera seems to not want to come back on, but I can still read the questions. We have a couple of questions that have been submitted. The first one reads, as the industry moves towards mass integration of electric power, what do you see as the biggest hurdle for OEMs in transitioning from traditional internal combustion electric or hybrid platforms?
Yeah, I think that that's a fantastic question, because I think what's been interesting for us here is the amount of challenges that and different challenges that different markets will face. So I think the reality is there's going to be unique situations that you'll run into, but at a high level, one of the biggest hurdles that we've seen OEMs face, to be honest with you, is talent, and making sure that you have the people who can execute these products for you. You have the engineering basis to do this. You have the right technical expertise to do electrified solutions. I think we've seen that combined with the unknown of the supply base out there to support them. So one of the initial issues that we faced, to be very honest with you, was we would have customers tell us your batteries are great, but we don't know what other components we need, and we don't know who to talk to. And I know that now, there's more suppliers, more reputable suppliers out there who are providing those components. And we're also providing controllers and motors, and we're expanding that product portfolio. And I think that that's really important, that, we make sure that the OEMs understand that there's a supply base of reputable providers that you can rely on to engineer commercial solutions, and that you have people out there that you can go call and you can go source these materials from. The other thing too, that we're lucky at Briggs & Stratton that we have, is what we call power application engineers. And then we also have technology partners. And these are people who all day, every day work with our customers on integration. And so the customer will send the piece of equipment to our power application center or to our technology partners, and then they will work on getting that piece of equipment electrified. And I think that those are important solutions, because I think OEMs kind of struggle with where to start. And so I think making sure that there's a support base out there for the customer is incredibly important. And then I think the other big thing too, to be honest, is second life. I think that the lack of solutions out there that we've seen in the marketplace for power providers who maybe don't have a good recycling strategy or a good end of life strategy is something that's a big headwind. And I think the more and more customers that run into it and are doing their due diligence on it, I think that's really important, because I think you need to have those answers for your dealers and for your end users.
Great. Thank you for that. We have another question here. Given the diverse power requirements of off-highway machinery, how does the Vanguard modular battery system address the challenge of balancing high energy density with the rugged durability needed for extreme operating environments?
Yeah, that's another fantastic question, because it's a very tricky solution to make sure that you get right. I would say for us, we've been lucky we've serviced these marketplaces with our engines. And so when we designed and engineered our batteries, we knew roughly what type of environment they were going to be thrown into. And we knew they were going to be thrown into commercial rugged environments. And we also knew that the customers who are going to be using the machines that our batteries are powering are going to get paid with them. And so we knew we had to design them for durability and ruggedness. And then we also knew that you need to make these energy dense. You don't want to ship air. And you don't want something where you're taking up a bunch of space that's not needed, because every inch that you can save your customer is important, or every inch you can provide more capacity is important. And so we knew we needed to address that. And so really when we looked at it, we looked at it as an engineering challenge. And that's how we addressed it is we engineered our batteries with the proper support in them, with the proper mechanical solutions and systems that are needed to meet the environments that they go into. And then we worked with our suppliers on making sure that we were choosing high quality cells that had really good energy density and really good performance to meet the requirements that our customers were going to demand. And so really it was about making sure that you have an engineered solution to meet these environments. You test to the standards that you know you needed, and then you go and test and try to exceed those standards, and you test it at the application level. You can go ahead and test in a lab environment, but really when you test at an application level, you learn a lot more. And so I think that that was really important for us as we had that customer base and we knew the applications that we were going to power and we engineered for them and then we tested to make sure that we can meet those.
Great. Thank you for that. I think those are all the questions we have for now. If anybody has any further questions, is there a way that they can reach out to you? I see you have a QR code, but I think that goes to a landing page.
Yeah, I would say please go to our Vanguard website, our QR code. There is a form fill out there. So if you have any questions, you can get in contact with one of our many battery experts that we have. And we would be more than happy to speak with you and answer any additional questions you have. So please go to our website, look for us on social media, fill out the form we have if you have any additional follow ups, and we'd be more than happy to make sure that we answer anything you need.
Great. Well, thank you very much, Ethan. And please, everyone, join us for the next session. It'll start in about half an hour. And I hope you have a great rest of your day.
Thank you.